And that's where I realized I was like, oh no, like I can't feel anything in my fingertips. In my hand, like I poked it with like the sharp end of the aisle and stuff, and like I couldn't feel it. And I was like, okay, maybe this drug is a numbing agent. Or maybe this is just a lesser side effect of a much bigger problem about to happen. So then I was like, all right, well, yeah, maybe I should. I'm still new here. I got to prove myself.
Oh, my God.
How did you not know? I'll tough it out. I'll keep working. I was like, I feel like I've heard lidocaine. It's not that big of a deal, right?
All right, so roll the intro.
Evening, officer. Is something wrong?
Just keep your hands where I can see them. Routine traffic stop. We got reports of someone driving under the influence. You know anything about that?
No, I'm only under one influence.
What's that?
The influence of Jesus.
It's time for Under the Influence.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children.
You want me to start it over?
Yeah.
All right. Professionalism.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Under the Influence. I'm your favorite co-host, Jude Crane. Followed up promptly by your two second favorite co-hosts.
Loop was on. No, wait.
Moron.
That's my name. Loop was on.
Levi.
Luke
My
was
name's-
on and Levi.
My name is Jerry.
Jay.
J-Man.
Ooh, you should turn that off. Actually, it's
point.
probably fine.
Can you guys hear the fan?
They can't hear the fan. They can't hear it. That's Jude. All right. Thanks for showing up for another episode, everybody. We appreciate you being here. We can't believe you're still with us, honestly. But we are really glad that you are. Thanks for that precious intro there, Jude.
Hey, thanks, guys.
If you're not involved with the conversation, with what we're doing every week online, you can be. Christian Influence is on Twitter at CI Games XYZ. You can find us on Facebook under the Influence Podcast. If you go to our website, christianinfluence.net, you can get a link to our Discord where we do a bunch of stuff like video games with each other, events, giveaways, and we talk about the podcast there as well. It's probably where we talk about it the most. But yeah, there's plenty of options for you to get involved, and we would love to talk to you more. And we'd love to hear what you have to say about the show as well as about what we talk about. So I guess that would be kind of synonymous, but whatever. I think before we get too far into this, I have a little surprise for you boys.
Oh, yes, I love surprises.
That's
Yes.
not
I'll
allowed.
just spit a little bit.
You do. So I'm going to read something to you.
Okay.
There was an episode where we discussed something.
Can I see it?
Nope.
Most episodes
And-
we do discuss something.
In that episode, I said, oh, it'd be fun if maybe we came back to this in an interesting way.
Oh, no.
And so I did it. I did some boop research, and I have something for you. I'm going to read something. I want you to try and guess what this that I'm reading is in reference to. I can't really give more details. I think it'll give it away. About, like what I'm reading or what it is about this thing. But I'm going to read something, and at different intervals, I'll ask you maybe if you have a guess, okay?
Okay.
All right. So instance number one of this thing. There's simply nothing redeeming about blank. It's an incredibly poor, woefully unentertaining use of a great license and an absolute bore to take part in. It doesn't get nearly enough right to be anywhere close to average and becomes its own worst enemy with a cavalcade of embarrassing glitches. Number two. Dull, repetitive, and carelessly programmed don't even begin to sum up how crummy this is based on the license that it is. Number three. Next to sharing the screen with Michael Jordan, this has to be the low point in this person's career.
Next to sharing the screen, Looney Tunes, Acme Arsenal. These are reviews for Acme Arsenal. These are scathing reviews for Acme Arsenal.
These are just the top reviews.
Yeah.
I didn't have to search hard. These are reviews of yours and one of our favorite childhood video games.
Favorite childhood games. Yeah. And all the reviews are scathing.
Dude, it has a 27 Metacritic score. And a user score, usually they're a little more graceful, 5.8. Last one on here. I give the creators props for mapping the camera controls to the remote's control pad. Other developers, take note, but I'd be more impressed if the game were fun.
That's good. These guys are great.
And then this other
Or girls.
review by IGN, it's a really long review. The other ones were just like, simple 1 to 5 stars, whatever. This one is a whole article about it, but there's one part of it that I found funny. A lot of it is this guy's personal experience with the game,
Blah, blah, blah.
how he played it, when he played it. And it is pretty funny. It's a funny read, especially if you played this game and loved it as a kid. But it has been since visited by the fairy that makes things boring.
It was fine. Giggled.
So,
Magical fairy isn't like a fake creature, whimsical thing.
right. No, there's just a term that a favorite author of mine uses called the suck fairy. And it just means that if there's something that as a kid you thought was really fun, like a certain book or a movie or whatever, and then as an adult you revisit it, well, it would be ridiculous to think that the reason you liked it was because you were a kid and it was always bad. Clearly, some sort of magical creature has since visited said thing and made it bad. So
Good thing we
clarified.
went over the fairy thing.
The prompt. So in this article, this bit I love says the premise of Looney Tunes, because I don't remember this about it, but I think you'll find this funny. The premise of Looney Tunes Acme Arsenal is that the evil scientist Dr. Frankenbeans, his hatred for bugs and friends, having reached the boiling point, has decided to send an army of killer robots after their ancestors.
Oh. So he's going back in time to kill Hitler as a baby.
Yeah. No, I'm going to be honest. That wasn't as funny as I remembered, because when I read it before in my head, I read the word bugs. And it doesn't say Bugs Bunny, but it is capital, and I didn't realize that was a proper noun. I thought he was talking about legit insects.
That's,
Oh, I 100% thought that it was talking about.
we're talking about Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
I didn't make the connection.
connect
That's why I
the
found it
dots.
funny. I was like, this guy hates insects so much, he's going to kill all the Looney Tunes? Now it makes sense. So it's not as funny. But your job in the game is to rescue your long-lost relatives and stop the evil doctor by battling your way through said robots in Egypt, Camelot, and etc., while collecting coins and glowing green tubes of some chemical, and then blah, blah, blah.
Then there's a really fun multiplayer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Local.
Egypt, Camelot, etc. You know exactly where it's going
all
after
real
that.
historical places.
I don't.
Egypt.
Exactly.
Oh. Donald Duck's
You guys were
ancestors
talking,
were in
didn't even
Egypt.
hear what I was saying. It
What'd
was
you
so
say?
stupid. It was
we
so
didn't,
stupid.
We didn't hear.
Go ahead and say it.
2 other detailed reviews on GameFAQs.com. Those other ones were like Metacritic user reviews. I could read all of them. There's probably some funnier ones. But 2, for whatever reason, that are at the top of the list are, because Metacritic, or whatever this website is, you can rate out of 100.
Yeah.
And so, like, those bad ones were 10, 18, 30 was the best one. Or no, 35 was the best one. There are 2 that, for some reason, are at the very top that have no body to the review. It's just a title. And they're both 1 reviews. 1 out of 100. And one of them says broken and unplayable. The other one just says can't make heads or tails of this game.
Well,
I just think it's funny that 2 people found it necessary to give that game a 1 out of 100. That's...
It's a finished game. It's a complete game. I encourage you
Maybe there's
to-
some good reviews on here. Ooh. Here's a 90. A fun time. Aside from occasional motion control jankiness, there's plenty of content in both single player and multiplayer. That was probably you that wrote that one. Here's a 3 out of 100. Playing as Looney Tunes characters in an insane game with some old friends along the way. How do you mess that up? Somehow they did. A terrible camera, insulting difficulty, and stupid repetitive things makes this game terrible. Where's
I
the
want to
fun?
replay it so bad.
wait, insulting difficulty?
There are some
Is that-
hard levels.
There are some levels that are ridiculously hard,
It's for
especially
a
for a
child.
children's game.
Yeah.
I just love that one of them is next to sharing the screen with Michael Jordan. This game has to be the low point in Bugs Bunny's career. What did Michael Jordan ever do wrong?
Space Jam is a fantastic movie. Why is it?
Yeah, I don't.
There's a
get
lot of people that really don't like it
I get
because
that
it's
it's
like this
mean.
weird like conglomeration of like real world, a lot of like capitalism and stuff. The people that are like capitalism in movies should be a sin.
Oh, because it's just like
It's basically like a big advertisement
for sports, NBA,
those,
Michael
yeah.
Jordan. Yeah, but
But then the enemy
Bill
in that
Murray's
movie
in
is
it.
kind of capitalism, right?
Yeah. It's the alien.
Well, the alien that's all about like the theme park and money.
The
money.
capitalist loses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's the contradiction that I just made.
that's what I was saying.
What are you, an idiot?
A little bit. But Bill Murray's in the movie. How can it? That's a great movie. I love that movie. The new one? Dude, that's all I have to say about that.
I didn't even watch it.
I didn't watch it either.
I watched like 30 seconds.
I mean, it's a cash grab based
And
off of
walked
nostalgia,
out the
like
room.
every
It
movie
is
has.
so
been.
bad. Petit.
Wow.
Is it?
Petit. Spitting. Petit.
But yeah, I thought you guys would find that funny. We
That
talked
is
about
funny.
it.
Yeah.
I figured it'd be fun because we said in an earlier episode, I was like, "Oh, we should go read some of those reviews because I'm sure the game is terrible." Or
I don't remember that.
And it was a few episodes ago, and I was going to talk about it last episode. We didn't get the chance, but I thought it'd be fun, so I reread some of them, and I thought I was going to have to like go through and find the funny ones, but apparently not because the top 4 on this website, I think, are all kind of hilarious. So yeah, that was that. Other than revisiting some old childhood games that we absolutely loved, yeah, I think we have an en route with we have an en route segment this week,
That's right. We do.
but not with Jude.
No.
Oh, then who's it with?
Well,
Wouldn't you like to know, pretty boy?
Wouldn't you like?
Levi. I turned loop off, so it didn't do it.
Look at that.
before.
Good job.
Look at you.
I don't know why loop was on.
Press the button.
So,
All right.
Levi,
So-
why were you driving my van?
Why were you delivering kettle
Funny
corn
thing,
for us?
I wasn't on a route. Well, I was kind of on a route, but just on my feet, stalking. You know,
Again,
like I do.
you predator.
Anyway,
I'm glad that joke's back.
Classically.
yeah, I'm stocking shelves, right?
Sure.
Just with random.
She sounds nice.
Yeah,
Whose shelves?
You wouldn't know
Ba-dum.
her. Different state, but I
So you're commuting.
Was it funny the first time?
Dude, it's funnier.
Yes.
It's funnier every time.
no, but forklift driver goes over, and I hear something fall, like on the aisle that's behind where I'm working, and I go over and I look, and I see he's just standing there, and there's just pools of oil. He had burst like 3 or 4 2-gallon jugs of oil, and just I don't know how.
Like kitchen oil or car?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like kitchen oil, not car oil. That would be even worse. But no, this was it. But it was just like pooling, like 2 massive lakes.
Yeah.
And these are very large aisles that are just filled with oil now. And so
Wait.
he's like,
Were the aisles like legitimately filled?
it was like it made it halfway down, and these are like really wide aisles.
Big aisle.
And it is from rack to rack,
Yeah,
and
3
that's
feet
where
deep.
the pooling, like, and it was like semicircles.
It filled the holes in the floor.
Well, the floor's all like
Yeah.
full shiny like concrete.
Some might say that if you had
Shiny
Heelys, it'd be the
rock.
perfect place to ride them.
yes,
Yes.
yes, some might say that. And but he's sitting there cleaning it up, and he's just basically all he's doing is trying to get the boxes into a trash can, and he's walking around like almost slipping because there's so much oil on the
Yeah.
ground all over his shoes. Gets back onto his forklift, tries to pull it away as he's going. It's like does the whee, and then it goes right, and he calls over a guy to clean up the floor. So it comes over basically like a Zamboni, but it's got squeegees, and it's for like cement floors to just like clean, and then it's got a big like squeegee on the back that just cleans
Does it
up.
work on oil though?
Well, if it's like a squeegee.
Apparently, it just like
would
it's
move it.
what
I mean,
it's
Even
what
the
we do
squeegee, though,
for
it's gonna
liquid.
leave it slippery. 'cause
Well,
it's
no,
oil.
no. It's got like cleaning things,
Yeah,
and it like
okay.
puts down stuff and sucks
like
back
a
up.
degreaser or something.
It's got the
Yeah,
wheel
and
with all the
then-
ducks covered in oil,
and then that's
then
just
the
like
dump soap.
But that's just like the back part is this like
Wait, the way it collects the oil is a bunch of ducks. And
Yeah,
then
because you
they-
see those videos of
Yeah.
Dawn, and it's all
Wait,
the ducks.
that's why?
Yeah,
They
so
use-
there's a wheel of ducks tied by their feet, and they and they get
That's
soaked in
real.
oil. Yeah, and then there's a wheel where they go through a Dove soap.
You'd
or
think
Dawn
that we
soap.
as humans would realize this far into our existence that ducks are not a cleaning material.
Well, they're the most
Absorbent.
absorbent for
Yeah.
oil.
They're also the most observant for it.
Yeah, they're very clever animals.
yeah, they really find all.
Yeah,
the oil.
sorry, Levi. Go ahead. they find a way. They find the oil.
Life finds a way.
Life finds. Yeah, ducks find a way.
But anyway, so it's got this big squeegee like thing on the back.
Yeah.
It's larger than what the actual machine is because it has to go like 2 inches off on either side just to clean up everything, right? It starts to go down the aisle, and then he turns so that he's gonna just like start shifting through, going back and forth across the aisle, like going like 8 feet and then turning, going
Yeah.
like 2 feet forward, 8 feet again. Does the first turn, it's all right, whatever. Turns again, and that back part clips onto somehow up a pallet and just makes like a big slash through it because it catches in and just starts to pull the cardboard away, and it's a flour pallet, and it just bursts 4 or 5 bags of flour.
LOUR.
flour, cooking
Oh,
flour.
I was like,
yeah.
why would there be flowers on a pallet?
No.
Got it.
It's like stacks of it, and so all that flour
Yeah,
spills out 4 bags, 4 like 20-pound bags, right? In the oil now. Because
so you
Yeah.
lit a match.
yeah,
Oh, no.
yeah.
All the flour
So we
exploded, and then it caught the oil on fire.
And so he's like, "Oh man," and he doesn't even notice that it's happening. And I don't even know that it's happening because I'm just stalking my pile,
Right.
and I just hear, no, and that happens, right? He starts going again because he gets it undone, whatever, it's all good. And he turns again. He does one other good turn, right?
Yeah.
And then I hear, stop. And I look, and he's doing another turn, and it gets stuck on the wood of a pallet this time. And the pallet, it's got like 500, 600 pounds on it. It's not moving. And it just starts to pull the squeegee off. And this squeegee is like bolted into the back of the Zamboni cleaner thing. And so it's just like, it's slowly tearing it off of the bolts because he's just going and going and going. And and then he stops. He looks back and he's like, "Oh, I know what to do with this." He begins to go forward again. The exact thing that he was doing. Fully breaks off one side of all the bolts for it.
Fantastic.
And then he's like, "Oh, maybe reverse." So he starts to go in reverse, and it's still like getting caught. So he gets out, steps onto the oil. That was his first mistake.
Were you just watching all this?
What?
you
Yeah. I just stopped. I stopped working and just started watching because it was very comical.
Makes sense.
Early in the morning, wanted to have some fun at work,
Yeah.
and so he gets it back. He like gets it off of the pallet, but it's barely hanging on to the back of his Zamboni cleaner. Gets back onto it, and now he's trying to get his feet onto the pedals, but his feet just keep slipping off because he's got so much oil.
Yeah.
And then he finally gets his feet placed, and he just starts to go, and he's not moving. And then
Is the thing just spinning?
and then he just gives it more and more gas, and then he just starts drifting across the aisle sideways. So he's not cleaning anything; he's just spreading the oil out.
And then he
way
tears open
farther.
the bag of feathers and gets coated in it.
Yeah, no, but it was just a comedy of errors.
Yeah.
He finally gets it going again in the right direction. I think the forklift like pushed him a little bit. But then they got a different one out, a new guy to actually clean up the mess.
It sounds like a scene from Home
They got a
Alone.
different one of the same machine.
Yeah,
And
because
that guy
it's
had
all
to
just
show up. The other guy was like, "Dude, This is how you really clean up oil.
Yeah.
It just
This
brings
is
out
how
a
you
straw.
don't crack. Because you just go down the aisle, then turn,
And this
then
all
come
started
back
because
down the aisle.
one guy had a
Entirely.
forklift and he ran into the aisle.
So
Or he just dropped something.
So he was grabbing a pallet off of the steel that's like
Yeah.
up like 60 feet or whatever. And I don't know if it just wasn't wrapped right. So
Yeah.
like a container fell off.
Yeah.
Or if he bumped it in the wrong way, or if while he was pulling it, it got caught and just fell. But like 2-gallon containers of oil. And then it was just soaking underneath the pallets. And we spun around the flour. We didn't fix it because we didn't have much time. Because we weren't going to unload the entire pallet of flour. Just
There was
to
just a
pull
few
out
bags at the
Those
bottom.
4 bags.
Yeah.
Places like where we get our sugar for kettle corn and stuff, they'll do that same thing. Or like a bag of sugar will rip. So if we get a whole pallet of it and they rip stuff on the bottom, they won't say anything. And we won't notice till it's here. And then we're like, hey, these were ripped. I mean, sometimes they'll credit us for them. But yeah, that same kind of thing. Because it's like not worth it to move 2,000 pounds of flour.
Yeah.
And then like 2 days later, we got down that low.
Yeah.
And I taped up and taken back to the damaged area.
What do you do with them?
They eat them.
We return them to the vendor.
That's what they get for lunch. Mouthfuls of flour.
Just pounds of flour.
Flour and oil this time? Oh,
That
boy.
reminds me of something, though.
No, but what was also funny,
yeah, go ahead.
that other guy came back and he's
Oil
like,
guy or Zamboni guy?
Zamboni guy.
Zamboni guy.
He
The
came
real
back and he's like,
troublemaker.
all right, I'm going to finish up the job. Because he's like, he's already
After
done with
the other guy did it?
The other guy ran through and then he's just coming back for detailing just to make sure that there wasn't like a spot that got missed. So he basically comes out with a roll of
Marbles.
paper towels.
A roll of marbles?
How can it get worse?
And just there's some
caltrops.
oil like on the ends of like the aisle, and he just like he wipes it up, takes that, throws it away, turns back, and it's there again. It's like, huh. Takes off some toilet paper, the paper towels, wipes it up, throws it away, looks back, and it's there again. Because he doesn't realize that the oil has pooled underneath the wooden pallets and has been absorbed. So every time he wipes it up, just a little bit more leaks out. And he's sitting there for like 10 minutes, like, and he doesn't understand. And we're like,
Dude, use a flame.
but no, yeah.
That's crazy. It's back. Oh my gosh.
Dude, I think he just didn't want to go back to work, and he's like, if I stretch this out long enough,
Yeah,
I can just keep
pretty
wiping up oil.
No, but then we were just like, yeah, we'll take care of it another time.
Oh, well, yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
So either day crew got it or the next shift people, because I wasn't working that same aisles.
Yeah.
The next day.
Jeez.
But yeah,
That's so funny.
it was a great way to start the day. We were all laughing except for that one guy. He was not really laughing.
With an oil spill.
yeah.
That's awesome.
That's funny. Did nobody ever slip?
Not that I know of, besides like
Bummer.
Just a few customers later.
no, just the guy on his
One
Zamboni.
like old lady wasn't paying attention, but that's on her. You know,
She didn't
Fell
see
back.
the fact that, I mean, she wiped it up before she went through, but she didn't see that it came right
Obviously,
back
it
out.
comes right back. Yeah, she's dead now.
Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh.
What does that remind you of? You said
So,
nice.
when I was working at a pharmaceutical warehouse, where basically
Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, nope. Where basically it's just
Wow.
it's one of the biggest ones in the world, and we would just pick products off of a shelf, and it could be anything running from like a $5 bottle of like ibuprofen or something, or like shampoo, like over the counter stuff that you find kind of in pharmacy areas, to
medical grade neurotoxins.
$180,000 bottles of chemotherapy stuff. Whatever.
Wow.
And so you never really you do know what you're handling. You're supposed to, but it's all moving so quickly, and they expect you to be able to move so quickly while at the same time telling you not to run, but require you to. That you don't always know what you're picking up. And I can't remember what the substance is called. It starts with an L, I think.
Lidocaine.
Thank you. You already know this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And have I told you this, Levi?
Probably, but it's been a long time. Go
But
ahead.
no, just like you're moving so quickly, and I was in the RX section where like a ton of the stuff is a little more expensive. You're not doing like shampoo, walkers, canes, bedpans, stuff like that anymore. You're handling stuff that's like between $10,000 and $50,000
Plutonium.
per product, and the place right next to me is the stuff that's got all the chemotherapy stuff. So it's like more expensive stuff, and
That's
so
plutonium.
you only get moved there if you're really effective, and also you haven't really had any spills or anything broken. I mean, there's a certain
That's where
level
the
of
spills
like lenience, but and I was working over there, and it doesn't help that it was only like my 4th week on the job. And I had gotten moved over there, from what I was told, faster than anybody else had been moved over to RX at the time. They're like, "You're doing a really good job. We trust you. We're going to put you in RX." So I thought, I have something to prove. I have to prove that they did a good job saying that I am doing a good job. So I was really on top of it. I was doing a really good job as far as I could tell, and I was moving really quickly. And some of those aisles, because they have to fit so many products on them, are really thin. I mean, thin enough that like I'm not a small guy, and I was a little smaller then, but like some of them, to move quickly and know that I'm not going to like bump into anything, because some of the products like stick off of the shelf, I had to move kind of sideways. But I was moving so quickly, I didn't think this aisle I needed to, and there was stuff. There were like boxes of chemicals, and not chemicals, well, whatever, drugs that were like peeking off the shelf, and the side of my shirt or my waist or whatever like bumped one of them. This this box falls. It's full of like 12 or 16 little vials, and I hear it shatter. And I was like,
Bummer.
like this is my 4th week. It's my 1st week like fully in RX. I have something to prove.
Well,
the last thing I need is to have like, I don't know, I was told like things here could be worth 80 grand a vial, and I just broke 12. But I had the coolest section manager ever. His name is Robert. Love him. He's great. And he was really understanding about that kind of thing. He was one of the reasons why I got put over there. He was like, "I want you over here. You're doing a great job." And I thought he was really cool. So I was like, I could just not say anything. I was like, there's a guy in the section with me right now who I frankly don't like very much. So I could not say anything. And when they find out it's broken, I'd be like, "That's weird. Must have been," well, I won't say his name, but must have been that guy. And then I was like, well, that's obviously not the right thing to do. But at this time, I was not the person I am now. And so I still didn't do it. But I really contemplated it, like more than I would now. And then eventually, I think Robert came by and, before that, I was like, well, I can't. I was like, I finished the box I was doing and finished picking the product I was picking. And I sent the tote down the line, and I was like, well, what do? I could just leave it in that aisle. This guy who I think is really annoying and rude, he might stumble across it, and then it'll be on his hands. I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't even know what the product is. Well, I should just own up to it. So I walk over there. I was like, I'll put it in the area where like broken product or bad product is put, and then I'll tell my I'm not going to go to the supervisors. I'll tell my section manager, and he can go to the supervisors with it. But I know I can trust him to like make it as minute of a problem as possible. So I go, excuse me, sorry. I go and I pick it up, and it's a cardboard box, and there's a puddle of whatever this substance is on the ground beneath it. And it's totally clear, so I don't see it, and I put my hands right in it. And then I was like, oh no. I didn't have enough experience to know like that I wasn't in the chemotherapy area either. So I was like, what if this is like a chemo drug? Like,
Did you just irradiate?
Yeah, like I'm going to get some sort of mutations in my fingers or something. And I picked it up, and then I'm like, I went and I was like, oh no. So I'm like wiping my hands off. I used some hand sanitizer, which who knows, if it was some sort of chemical, maybe that would have made it worse. There's no way of knowing. But then I'm like,
I mixed it with like straight alcohol on my hands.
I literally, put it in my mouth. But I was like sucking it down.
Delicious. Like Cheeto dust.
But since you'd already said what the product was, you probably know where this is going.
Oh, my bad.
But like,
How dare you?
Whoops.
we can cut it out in post. But I have grabbed the thing. I'm putting it away now in the area, and like I'm trying to wipe it off my hands as best as possible. I do what I can. I go, and then I didn't get that much on my hand. It was like just on the bottoms or like the base of my fingers. And then I took some paper towels and I went to wipe it up, and it soaked right through the paper towels and got all over my hand at that point, like fully on my hand. And I was like, well, It didn't kill me before. I mean, it was like 30 seconds ago, but it was like, it didn't kill me before, so whatever. And then I looked at the box, and it said lidocaine. And I was like, I know I've heard of lidocaine, but I don't know what it does. And it doesn't say on the box what it does, because this is like going to hospitals. They know what it does. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, crap. Should I go like now and say something? And I'm too shy to do that kind of thing. So I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to say anything.
My hand is twice the size it normally is, and it's on
Well,
fire.
what started to happen was I was like, well, it's probably nothing. They wouldn't put the new guy in the area with the stuff that's really toxic or dangerous, right? Like,
obviously.
I was like, lidocaine's not chemo stuff. So, okay, it's not the really bad stuff. Now, I don't want anyone to think there wasn't real safety protocols. The chemo stuff is carefully labeled. It says it's chemo stuff, on all that. Like, so I just was ignorant at the time. Like, since then I had learned there's clear signs that say you're in the chemotherapy section, whatever.
This was little baby Jerry.
But at the time, I'm like, I have no idea what this is. So I'm like, I'll just move on. And I had to keep because if you stall for too long, your numbers start to tank. And then you get a bad review of your work performance because they say like, well, why'd you take 10 minutes doing nothing? So I was like, I got to get back to work. So I just went back to work because I wasn't going to take a break because knowing this company, it doesn't matter what the reason is. Even if you think it's good, they don't care. It will be, nope, doesn't matter. Oh, nope, you thought that you might have acid on your hands. Sorry. It's going to reflect on your numbers. So I was like, well, I just got to keep working. So I kept working. I kept going. And then my hands, I didn't even think it got on my left hand, but it must have in some way. Both my hands started going very numb, like really numb, to the point where my right hand, I couldn't feel it almost at all. My fingertips, when I would grab something, no feeling at all. And I would like grab something, I'd be like, oh, I missed it, because it was in a box, and I would have to and then I lifted my hand up, and like 4 of them would fall in my hand. I was like, and that's where I realized, I was like, oh no, like I can't feel anything in my fingertips. In my hand, like I poked it with like the sharp end of the aisle and stuff, and like I couldn't feel it. And I was like, okay, maybe this drug is a numbing agent, or maybe this is just a lesser side effect of a much bigger problem about to happen. So then I was like, all right, well, yeah, maybe I should. I'm still new here. I got to prove myself.
Oh my God. How did you not die?
I'll tough it out. I'll keep working. I was like, I feel like I've heard lidocaine. It's not that big of a deal, right? And so I kept going. And
I've
finally,
also
Robert,
heard of like hydrochloric acid.
Yeah, I've also heard of, yeah. Well, then eventually Robert came to my section and was like, hey, how's it going? I was like, hey, great. I can't feel anything in my hand, though. And my other hand is going a little numb. I also dropped some product. And he's like, okay, what was it? And I was like, lidocaine. And he was like, oh, you'll be fine. Did you wash your hands? I was like, hand sanitizer, yeah. He's like, you should probably just go wash your hands, But he's like, lidocaine, it's not going to kill you. How much did you get on your hand? I was like, well, I mean, I showed him like what I did. I did it again, got more. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, I mean, you're probably fine. And then he's like, I'll tell the supervisors, but I'm sure you're fine. If anything happens, let me know. But he's like, I'm sure it'll just numb you up a little bit, and then you'll be fine. And then, it was numb the rest of the night, even when I went home. So I think I got a lot on my hand. And, I didn't feel anything in that hand for the rest of the night. But he was like, I guess that's what they use in like epidurals.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure. I could totally be wrong, and somebody will tell me. But I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And so it's like a very strong numbing agent and like pain.
I had
pain
surgeries
reduction.
where they were injecting it into like my spine.
Well, hey, I handled it in my hands.
Very cool.
So I didn't even have to.
He's basically gone through the same
I
surgeries.
was basically using lidocaine lotion. But I used straight lidocaine, dude.
That kind of reminds me of oh shoot, it's a song I wrote about lidocaine. Do you mind if I sing it for you real quick?
Go for it.
Not at all. Do you want me to give you an intro, like a musical intro?
Yeah. Well, no.
He's got a beat for it.
There was a long enough pause, so we can cut it. I have to pee so bad that my bladder is pushing against my belt.
Hang on. Let me
That's
give you
a weird
music
song.
Hang on. Start over. Ready?
Yeah. I'm waiting for it to bleed into the... Here we go. I have to pee so bad. My bladder's pushing against my belt, and it hurts badly. I'm leaving.
Oh, this wasn't about lidocaine at all.
No, I have to pee so bad. And Julie, I think, is at the door.
And we're back. Thank you, everybody, for being patient while Jude tended to some issues off microphone. They involve his singing career.
And if you donate
Did we not
to our
catch the whole
Patreon,
song?
you
Did
can
the recording
catch.
cut out? Did we not get the whole song?
Oh, I'll have to check.
Ooh. I really worked hard on that.
It was American Idol level, and not the good kind.
Well, yeah, but if they only
You know
hear the
those
beginning,
ones
it's
who
just going to
get the
sound
big
like I have to pee. It's a song
right
about
away.
lidocaine. All right, we're back. Face.
We're back. And scene. Where were we before Jude so rudely interrupted us with a song?
You had just finished your lidocaine story.
You had just finished your lidocaine story. You're right.
What?
You're right. What did you think I said?
The same thing twice.
You're right.
Yeah, and now a third time.
So why'd you say what?
Because I don't think it's what you're saying.
You're right.
No, you got it.
Okay. So other than our little Looney Tunes Acme Arsenal segment, gross, or our on the job stories, we got another thing we want to talk about. Well, I just was thinking about it. I've been thinking about it lately because it's something I'm really trying to do, and I don't think it's controversial as to like what made me think about doing it, but I don't know. You be the judge of that. It'd be weird if you said it was, so don't. No, I've been really trying to pray more, and that's something that I think people often say, just as Christians in general. What happened?
He just
Took a
swished
quick hit of Pepto-Bismol.
Pepto-Bismol around in
Not a
his mouth.
sponsor.
Oh, you're washing it down with
Like when-
Sprite?
Like when you
Oh, put the lavender away, though.
I don't need it. It aerates the whole process.
Okay.
I'll put my shirt back
like
on,
when you
but-
take Listerine and you swish it.
Yeah.
and it burns.
Yeah.
How about what Jerry was actually
Wait,
talking
hang on.
Pepto-Bismol.
What's wrong with swishing
about?
Listerine?
Wait a minute.
No,
That's the thing you're
He
supposed
was
to
doing
do.
that with Pepto-Bismol.
I did do that with the Pepto-Bismol.
Yeah.
Chalky Pepto?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just
And you
like,
got Pepto chalk in your teeth?
Yeah, I like
Grit?
to keep tasting it. I get a nice finish, kind of a marshmallowy finish with notes of plastic, rubber.
So what I was saying is,
disgust me.
I think it's a common thing Christians talk about a lot, right? Especially if you're in a group, man, I can't tell you just how many times you're putting a Sprite can in your armpit.
Dude, it's not
I
a
am
visual
so
medium,
hot
bro.
in here.
I can't tell you how many times at like a youth retreat or something where I was sitting there and either myself or one of the other ones, you know, when you're asked by the leader, like, what's something that, you know, you could work on? At least one person, if not more, is going to say, well, I think I should pray more. But all that to say, you know what I'm trying to do right now? I'm trying to pray more.
Wow.
But I'm trying to think about like the real reasons why, and trying to think about the ways I pray. But also, one thing I thought a lot about, like when I was a teenager and younger, and that would be my answer, right? Like if somebody asked me, well, what's something you could work on right now as a Christian? And if I said, well, I want to pray more, I've been thinking a lot the past couple weeks about like, well, what did I do? Did it work? And then after coming to the conclusion that it really didn't, why? And I think one of the things I've learned is that in other times where I've come to the realization that I should pray more and then didn't, or what I wanted to get out of it didn't happen, or I didn't think I got anything out of it, was because I was just thinking to myself, like, I'll just do it more. Like, the more that bad things happen, I'll just think to pray more. Or throughout my day, I will just remember, oh, I should be in constant conversation with God, or I should be praying continuously. And I will just do that. And I had kind of like a revelatory experience on Mexico missions trip our sophomore year, which I talked about.
that.
You were there for that. I think you and I got very close through that trip. There were like a lot of times
They
that
kissed.
no, dude, your timing on that. There were a lot of times that they kissed. No, I just remember that you and I got heat stroke really bad, and had to go back to the cabin, and we hung out for a while. But no, there was something that I was like, when we came back from that trip, we were all kind of expected to speak in front of the school. Right. For those who haven't listened to the podcast before, I think most of you are returning listeners, but there might be people that are jumping in on this episode. But we all went to a private Christian school, and this mission trip was through the school. But when we came back, we were kind of expected to talk about it and talk about things we had learned and our experiences with it. And the thing I talked a lot about was like, oh, everybody knows that the Bible says pray without ceasing, but it's so important. And I just kept using this example of like, we were like helping tear down a portion, or like tear up a portion of the ground and flatten it, to build this church and stuff. And there was this really steep hill, and all of the rubble that we were creating from breaking open the side of this cliff, we would load up into wheelbarrows, and we would have to run it. What?
Nothing.
Oh, maybe I could find some pictures of this and put it in the Discord or something. We would have to run these wheelbarrows full of rocks and rubble up this hill, this really steep hill, and then you'd get to the top, and then you would dump it off the side of the cliff. And that was what we were doing with it, right?
I mean, we were moving a mountain. It was
A small
it was
mountain.
very impactful.
No, and we did a lot of work, and it was very impactful. And I was very thankful to have been a part of it. And I mean, service is very important, I think, in the life of the believer. And I think that kind of service, there's many different ways to serve, right? To serve the church and to serve just other people in general. And I think manual labor is one of the, I don't want to say easiest, because sometimes it can be difficult, but it's one of the most simple or straightforward ones to be like, oh yeah, if I do this manual labor for someone and help, in an effort to help them, it's a good service. But this was very difficult. It was challenging. It was very taxing on the body. Like, I was going through so much water. And I remember the reason I always brought this up back then, when I was always like, well, I need to pray more, was because I had this experience where, for whatever reason, I was the one that was most often pushing the wheelbarrow up. Typically it was one person in the middle pushing and two people on the side to help you get all the way up the hill. And there was a while where I was just by myself, or I wasn't by myself, but usually, the position would switch off, but I was doing it a lot. And then
He was a strong man.
was.
Is.
And, I was a lot stronger then. I worked out a lot, but I had this responsibility for the majority of that day. And I enjoyed it for a while, but then it got to the point where I was still enjoying it, because like, I do really enjoy service. I really enjoy, especially like anything like manual labor or physical labor, something tangible. I do enjoy it, because while I struggle with it, it reminds me that I'm doing it out of love. Like, when I'm struggling with something like that, it reminds me, even though I think sometimes it's easy to react to a struggle and then think like ill of why you're doing it. And I tend to do that more with like a job where I'm getting paid. But when I'm doing it just because it's right, or it's an act of service, or, out of love, for whatever reason, the struggle for me is always the thing where I'm like, oh, it's just a constant reminder that it's worth it. And so I was enjoying what we were doing that day, but it was getting very difficult. And I kept thinking, like, about halfway through, like, I don't know if I can go again. Right. I was physically exhausted, and people were giving me breaks every now and then, but I was doing a lot of this, and I maybe it might be because I'm not very good with tools or something. I don't know, but this is what I was good at. So I kept doing it, and I was just praying constantly. Like, I kept saying, okay, I don't think I have the physical strength to go up this hill again. God, please give me the strength to get up this hill, right? Because I'm doing something good. Now, to a certain extent, like, I don't think God's going to, well, I know God's not going to punish me if I had to take a break because I physically was incapable, obviously. But I really wanted to keep doing this because it was important to me. It was a way of showing God's love. So I was just praying, God, give me the strength to get up this hill again, right? And so the reason I bring this up is just because at a time in my life that I think I've been thinking back on about where I used to say, I'm trying to pray more. This was always my example of how important it is to pray constantly, because in this time where I was doing something for 10 hours or whatever, and it kept feeling more and more impossible, I was finding myself naturally not just going to God and being like, God, this is hard, help me. I was just like talking to him. I started just talking about like, I'm really glad that you've given me this opportunity to serve, and talking to him about like things that were going on in my life back home, back in the US. And because I was struggling with this work, but I was happy to do it, I was thinking about other struggles in my life entirely unrelated, and I was just having a conversation. And so this example was something that always came back to me. So all of that to say, the past couple of weeks, I've been thinking a lot about praying again, because I have gotten out of the practice, I think, a little bit. And I think it's important to, remind ourselves sometimes of some of the fundamentals or some of the very simple things that we might take for granted. So I think back on that time in my life when I was younger, when I was always saying I need to be praying more, and why I think maybe I didn't get out of it what I either hoped or didn't get a lot out of it in general. And I think it's just because I was just telling myself, well, why it's important to pray, because like you have this example, this literal mountain you helped move and you saw the impact it had on you. But more recently, I've been thinking back then, and I don't think even that was enough to get me to like throughout my day really have a conversation. So what I've been doing differently, because thinking back on that and how I don't think it was as effective as I wanted it to be, or as effective as it should have been, I have been thinking about, I don't know if this is the right word, but like ritual prayer, or like maybe habitual prayer. But morning and night, which is like a thing that you do as kids, like in children's stories and stuff. It's always like kids kneel by the side of their bed, probably not modern children's stories, but you kneel by the side of your bed with your parents, or your dad, your mom, or whatever, or by yourself, and you look up and you fold your hands and you pray. And I haven't really considered that a lot as an adult. But we've talked about this on the podcast before. I was watching The Chosen, and I learned something I didn't really know, which is the immediately when waking up, how they would immediately thank God for their day, for keeping them safe throughout the night. And then immediately when they lie down, or before lying down, or before closing their eyes, they would pray again for safety that night and thanking them for God for the day. And I was like, I don't know. It just had this, I just kind of like, oh yeah, it's not just for kids, right? I mean, in this show, it's showcasing the life of the Jewish life, right? For some of these characters. But for me, I was like, that's not something that we are exempt from necessarily. Not to say that we have to do it, but it's not something that, because these were Jews doing it, means that we shouldn't do it, or like it would be wrong for us to do it. And so I considered how that applies in my life. And so something I've been trying to do lately is praying immediately when I wake up. And that's the hard one to remember to do. Because like when I wake up, I'm groggy, or I'm rushing to get out the door. And so I usually forget. But I'm finding that the times I do it really set my day up for maybe not success, but really establishes my day to be in constant prayer. And so all of that, right, building up to what I had said before, which is as a high schooler, when I'd be like, I had this example of how important constant prayer had been in my life. And I was like, well, I just have to do that more. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to do it. But I didn't really, because I was just telling myself, hey, just pray throughout the day, and then you don't do it. But now with this, I'm finding it to be much more effective. And it's just kind of interesting to see historically how it was used and how I'm trying to implement that in my life. And I also find it's easier to remember to pray at the end of the day, because, I'm building up to going to bed or whatever it is, and I lie down, and usually I have some time that I have to just lie there before I can go to sleep. I'm not very good at just falling asleep. And usually my thoughts will wander to anything, to good or bad. But now, when I catch my thoughts wandering, it is much easier to remind myself that I should pray. And it has been an incredible experience, I will say, falling asleep talking to God. Really, really good. I've been struggling a lot more lately with, this is interesting. Sorry, now I'm realizing that this episode is just me talking about myself unintentionally, but I had not put two and two together. We've talked about this before about dreams and stuff and how you guys experience dreams differently than I. Lately, I've been having a lot of really negative dreams. I had been. And the times that I, fall asleep talking to God, I absolutely do not, which is really, really good. I don't know if that can apply to you in any way. But the past, couple months, and I have attributed most of it to a lot of stress. And I've only been doing this for a week and a half. But the past couple months, I've been under a lot of stress, and I've been experiencing some pretty awful dreams. I say couple months, but it's probably just been a month. I don't know. But yeah, no, that's all I wanted to say and throw it out there and see what you guys think about it, or if you have any thoughts on the whole topic at hand here as well. But no, I've been praying. I've been trying to remember to pray when I wake up in the morning and before I go to bed. And it's because I saw them doing it on The Chosen, and I was like, oh wow, this is an important something important to, historically to the Jews. Excuse me, and something that I want to emulate, and it has been very effective in establishing my day to more constantly pray without ceasing. So,
yeah, I think it's it's kind of like that, milk toast hot take, in a Christian circle, oh, I just need to pray more,
yeah,
that's the easy answer for anyone.
Oh, yeah.
like the Sunday school answer, kind of.
Yeah. Oh, well, how can you improve yourself without if you want to say that without getting too deep at all with anything, you can always just be oh, I just need to pray more.
Or if you don't want to give an answer that somebody might ask you to extrapolate on.
Yeah.
You're how can you, improve your life, your walk with Christ? The easy answer is always to say, well, pray more. And then it's well, yeah, you got it. Yeah. Way to go, man.
But, no, yeah, it's something that always gets said, but for me at least, it doesn't get practiced as much as it should be.
Yeah, me too.
And that's because I also just don't think about it, because it's that thing you always oh, well, I guess I should pray more, but it doesn't really happen. And you pray when you remember to.
Yeah.
But if you actually, that's something I hadn't really thought of. I kind of feel stupid.
What?
Not thinking about just setting, people do meal, prayers before eating and everything.
Yeah, and that makes me think about why we do that then, right?
Yeah. Because if you actually
we eat three primary times in the day.
Set yourself up to pray. I mean, yeah. But yeah, it would help to kind of get into more of a groove of praying.
Yeah.
Instead of just whenever you think about it, because your mind's going to wander a lot. Because it does. No question.
Yeah, it brings up a really interesting point though too, with the meals thing. I hadn't thought about that, but one of the points I was kind of getting to specifically with the morning and night thing is that those are two really easy things to establish, right? Because they always happen. You always have a morning and a night. I mean, I shouldn't say you always wake up because sometimes you don't go to sleep. I wasn't. I
thought you were just going to be
die.
sometimes you just
die.
Don't wake up.
No, you don't always wake up because maybe you are awake all night for whatever reason. But it doesn't matter. But you're always waking up in the morning and going to bed. So those are two really easy. But that makes you brought up meals, and I think there's obviously precedent for thanking God for what He has provided you. Mm-hmm. And so thanking Him for the meal, but also that's a really good point. These are a meal. Well, we are so lucky to be in a country and in a time where we can count on 3, sometimes more meals a day, right? But like setting these things that are regular things that already happen in your day consistently, and making a commitment to those, like to pray accompanying those things. It only makes sense to choose those things that are like so constant like that, right? So, that really puts that in a different perspective for me to like think about praying before a meal, because even up until very recently, I've been kind of like, well, I do thank God, but I do it very quickly, because the importance to me on thanking God before a meal was just like thanking Him for the food, and it's like, I mean, I shouldn't say that's not important, but like it's some, it gets difficult to really put a lot of importance on that sometimes, I guess, because it's food. I guess we take food for granted, maybe. Well, not maybe. But yeah, that really adds another level of importance to it. And I think I will probably find myself praying before meals more often now. Not because specifically I'm praying for the meal, which I think is still important, but it's because of just the intentional repetition. The
3
intentional
benchmarks in your day where you undoubtedly will go, oh, I pray now.
And then if I'm doing that, then hopefully throughout the rest of my day, in the things that do come up more spontaneously, the things that are not constant, I will find myself reaching to prayer.
Yeah. I want to get to a point where my reaction to something, to everything, is, firstly, what should I pray about this?
Yeah.
And secondly, okay, what do I do about it? That'd be kind of nice.
So like whenever I'm walking through Costco, every single time they give me a sample, my reaction will be, let me pray about this.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant a little bit, but not really.
Oh, sorry.
Speaking about prayer and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I've been watching a TV show about like a bunch of people. They just throw them into the wilderness and try to survive, and last one standing gets like $500,000 or whatever.
Oh,
it should be said that they're like, it's a survival show. They're not fighting to the death. They're not throwing a bunch of people in the wild. The last one to survive.
No. They're not fighting to the death. They're all alone. It's called Alone. Like everybody's trying to survive on their own, away from people.
Oh, I thought you were like
10
dodging
primitive
around
items.
the name because it was like Naked and Afraid or something.
Oh yeah.
No. But
And also they're
just
naked.
watching it, these people are out in the middle of nowhere and really dangerous area, like for nature and the weather, and
Arizona.
just everything was against them. But
Portland.
so they'll be like gathering like foods or whatever, and then they'll find like an animal and they'll kill it and like start to skin it. But like every time that they find something, because it's so hard for them to find food, especially in like the beginning, like to get like set in, because they're just like dramatically losing weight and everything at the very start. But when they killed like the animals, they would like get down and like basically every single person would just like say thank you, and then they would like direct it to the animal spirits or like nature, and just like, thank you, Buck, for giving me your food.
Thank you, Buck.
And
I was like, who's
but
Uncle
like
Buck?
I don't know, I found it really weird because I keep expecting like them to like thank God.
Yeah.
And then one of the people, he just right out in the open, thank you gods, and like because he's like pagan or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was just very strange.
Yeah.
And like with a lot of the conversations, because these things are like super edited, I feel like there were a couple of these people that were Christians, but they were just getting like cut off from their prayers. But then they would have like other people meditating and like just engrossing themselves in nature.
Better content.
And they switch over to the Satanist.
Yeah, and
just
then
like,
switch over to the pagan.
I do not thank you, Buck. Thank you for this goat.
But no, it was just...
It's strange and it's a little convicting that there's all these people praying
Yeah.
to a myriad of things, and I'm
we
not
aren't.
even praying before breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't bring it up to say like I'm really succeeding at this, and I think you guys should too. I bring it up to say like I'm trying to do it, and I'm definitely not effectively doing it right now. But when I have, I've noticed an importance, if not just to say, oh, I'm noticing a positive impact on my life, which is a little selfish. There's the importance of reverence too.
Yeah.
You know, our respect to him. That is very important. What?
What?
Oh, you were looking at me like I said something crazy.
Oh, sorry. I was just trying to make eye contact.
Okay, don't ever
Be
do
a
that
human
again.
person.
No, there's the importance of of paying respect and glorifying him. But yeah, so that's the only reason I brought it up.
Hey, this is a great thing to come back to. Not even just next week, but weeks on end. Kind of check in with our prayer life. That'd be a nice thing. Not trying to make a segment. I'm not trying to turn this into content. I'm just saying I would like to next week and the coming weeks kind of chat.
Try and keep
just a
ourselves
little bit.
accountable.
Oh, why don't next week we make sure that we pray before recording?
Hullabaloo, that's a great idea.
Because we say we are trying to do that with D&D. Now, our very first session of D&D we played, we forgot to pray. I think there was a lot of... everybody was late.
Session number 2, I got it.
I have it at the top of my prepared session notes.
Pray!
Oh my...
That kind of thing. Like,
I mean, in big red letters, it says, you better pray.
yeah.
And then you
good.
scroll
And then it says,
down so
or
you
you're
can
gonna
see,
pay.
and then it's gone.
It's like, scroll down, have you prayed yet? Scroll down, I know you just scrolled past
Honestly,
the second
I should do that because in the past, I have put that at the top, and I just
And just
missed
scroll
it.
past it like a banner.
Yeah.
Or something.
Not
It
not
becomes-
on purpose, but I
Yeah, yeah.
missed it. And so I probably should put it throughout. Just
Hey,
like,
good tie-in, though. Don't let that become your pre-meal prayer. Don't let it become something where you're closing your eyes, saying something, but it's going into the, the nothingness.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
just doing it to get to the food. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't let it become something you just
Like,
scroll
that's kind of
past.
what I was saying earlier, too. Like, with the food one, that's kind of what it became for me. So then I just stopped doing
Yeah.
it. Because it had become that, and I was like, why is it important if I'm just like... it's kind of like
It's
how when
like
people
a
pray.
mantra.
Yeah,
like,
like when
just,
people say in Jesus'
you
name,
just-
but they don't think about what that means.
Yeah.
You'd rather
or-
pray intentionally. And so, and I'm guilty of the exact same thing. But
Yeah.
instead of making the prayer you do intentional, you cut out some of the prayer you do.
All right,
Yeah,
before
it was
you
the
eat that
wrong
meal,
response. It was the wrong response.
Yeah.
to eat that meal, you're gonna have to do 3 Hail Marys.
Yeah, it was the incorrect response, definitely, to cut it out. And so now I mean, thank you to Levi for bringing that up, because I think I was on the precipice of looking at these like constants in my day and going, oh, I should be praying on these constants, because then I will constantly be praying, right? But I hadn't even considered meals and how that is a function that praying before eating serves. Is that, well, you
Yeah.
always do it, and it is now a constant. And so if praying before eating is this constant throughout the day, then in the rest of my day, in between meals and whatever, I will hopefully be, it will be more on my mind. And also, pray about it. I mean, like,
Nice.
no, like that God will put things in your way to remind you, But, yeah, that was it. Did we have more we wanted to talk about that, or?
Closing statements.
Sorry.
good.
Before we go to closing statements, I did also want to say, on the alone thing, they're
On
all
the
like,
show,
alone.
yeah.
Yeah. They all are like suffering really bad from just being alone
Yeah.
and like having no one to talk to. And
Oh,
I'm
they
like,
don't have each other?
No, they are all separate, like miles away from each other.
Self-documenting.
Yeah, they
they're
all
all
have
alone.
cameras.
Really?
And
Yeah,
then
it's like that Survivor Man
every,
show,
like,
Yeah, there's no crew.
but a ton.
every like week they have to go to a designated drop point, switch out the cameras so there are new batteries and things. But yeah, so they all are like really like hurting, like
Yeah.
spiritually, like they're not just physically, but more than that, just from being alone and like that sheer like horribleness of it. And I'm just like, why don't you pray? I mean, God's listening. But then they're like, nah, I'm going to meditate, speak to the pagan god
Speak
things.
to the grass.
I'm going to
speak to the
speak
grass.
to the grass.
And they're like, I don't get anything out of this. And I'm like, huh, I wonder why.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
What if there was a way you could get something back?
What
Hi,
if there was?
My name's Jude, and I'm here to talk to you about Christianity.
Yeah. I guess I should, before we go completely, I don't know how much good it does to just read a verse real quick, and we can talk about it real quick, but there are
Can't
some
do
verses
much
here
worse.
too that apply here, and I think it would be a disservice to at least not mention them, right? 1 Thessalonians 5:17 and 18. or 16 through 18. Rejoice always, pray continually. So this is that one I was referencing before, right? Pray continuously. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. So that kind of, touches on a little bit of what we talked about, right? Which is thanking God, right, for his provision, but giving thanks in all circumstances, right? And we touched on that a little bit with the good and the bad, which is still kind of one of those Sunday school answers, right? When you're asked, like, when should you pray? It's like, oh, well, when things are good and when they're bad, but but actually do that. Right? Because we say that all the time, but we don't. I mean, I know I do. But then James 5:16, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person has great effectiveness. So I guess this whole discussion, we've mostly been talking about praying like introspectively, like ourselves individually. But it's important to remember as well to pray for one another. Right. And I think if we are finding ourselves praying continuously, right, if we are praying at these points in our day that we have kind of set aside so that it will remind us to pray, and then consequently we find ourselves praying continuously, it should be this continuous conversation with God, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, we talk about each other in conversation quite a bit, and I think it only fitting that we should talk to God about each other and about the things that we know are difficult for each other, and thanking him for the people in our lives, and talking to him about the impact different people have had, in our lives, and the impact we might hope to have on different people. So, because like it says, the prayer of a righteous person has great effectiveness. So, yeah. Sorry, were you still talking about your Survivor show? No. And then I cut you off with Bible verses.
No.
Okay, good.
Hey, if you're praying when it's good or when it's bad, guess what? That's all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it's either good or bad.
It's either good or bad.
You best be praying.
But you best be praying.
Let's get that on a shirt.
It's either good or bad, but you best be praying.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's not that bad. I kind of like it.
It's not that bad, no.
I feel like we could probably workshop it a bit.
Better.
Yeah.
Dude, we should do some shirts or something.
That'd be funny.
That would be fun.
Yeah, we should start wearing shirts.
We should probably start wearing shirts.
It is hot in here. I'm not putting a shirt on.
Speaking of the heat, I think we can wrap this up. Yeah. We're at over an hour.
Speaking of the heat, it's really hot.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I will probably only repeat myself, but I just join me in an attempt to pray more often. Think about the things that are constantly going on every day, and make sure you set a time with those to pray. And hopefully, the consequence of that will be a constant conversation with God throughout your day. And hopefully it will really impact your day as well as your night, right? Like with your sleep and your sleep patterns. And not just for the things in your life, but be praying for other people.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else?
Check back with you guys.
Yeah.
Next week, seeing how it's going for all of us.
Yeah. And next week, I'm going to write it down. Last week I wrote something down, but it didn't end up mattering.
Wow.
Nice.
This week I will write down at the top of episode 20's show notes. Ooh. Episode 20, pray before.
Episode 20?
Crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Dude, it's not going to be long till we hit 52.
Yeah.
Yep. I guess, if you look at it that way.
Just imagine that, a year under the influence of Jesus.
Well, once we finish our full second season, it will have been a year. But all right, we love you very much, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Roll the outro.
I end the program by saying, you've made this day a special day by just your being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just